Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Post-fight review, Derek Chisora vs. Gerald Washington. 10 rounds of very forgettable action overall. And that wasn't helped by Gerald Washington being on the back foot, trying to be a bit negative and also trying to thwart Derek Chisora's come-forward style. What we had was largely Gerald Washington looking for counter right hands, uppercuts, Derek Chisora plowing forward, especially early on, just, really throwing looping shots, trying to get over that low left hand of Gerald Washington and try to spark him. Sometimes the left hook would come in, but overall, it was just so pedestrian. Somehow, in the year 2023, you've got a near 40-year-old Derek Chisora fighting an over 40-year-old Gerald Washington, and it was the co-main event on a major show, Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius. And maybe they thought this one was going to catch fire, but it didn't. There were moments, though, where Gerald Washington looked like he might quit, and we'll come to that, but I think a lot of people were probably, I know I was, just getting a bit down about watching this thing because most of it was pretty just so humdrum action. And I don't necessarily like to come on and talk about fights that are absolute garbage, but this one here did not deliver. It wasn't the sort of 3-round shootout that we thought it might be. And it was clear both these guys are very far removed from their prime. We already knew that, but we're being sold a lemon in terms of this one was going to be something that would be a big, action-packed type thing. Wasn't like that at all. And some people will say styles make fights, and the commentators were trying to say that this one wouldn't gel. But I guess with Malik Scott training Gerald Washington and what we've seen Washington do in the past where he's facing pressure fighters, Jarrell Miller, Ali Aaron Demirjian, basically he gets worn down and then he quits. And there was a moment of that, especially as he started to, both these guys were pretty tired early on after about 4 or 5 rounds, but Washington looked really tired. And after about 6 rounds, I think I said on Twitter that we're getting to the point where it looks like Washington is starting to get to that point where he wants out. The body language wasn't good. He was tired. He was having less success. But Malik Scott really had to G him up in the corner and say, people the world over expect you to quit right now. So he was able to give him a pep talk to keep him going, etc. And actually, he had some okay rounds towards the end of this fight. But the problem was he just didn't have enough success. And he was also on Derek Chisora's home turf because the scorecards were, especially one of them, was wild. Remember, it's a 10-round fight. 98-93 for one judge. And this was actually a relatively close fight where you had Washington having some good rounds, rounds 2, 3, 4. He actually was in those rounds putting it on Chisora, landing some good right hands, uppercuts, but he just didn't do enough late on. I think it was a lot closer than 98-93, but I'm not mad that Chisora got the decision, except it means that he'll keep fighting. Both these guys are washed. In the lead up to this fight, I said it was the washed versus the washed. And that's exactly what we ended up getting, unfortunately. It wasn't, I was praying that it would just be all guns blazing, a 2 or 3 round shootout. Someone would gas and get taken out. That might have actually done something for the card because immediately before this, you had another pedestrian fight. Filip Hrgović and Dempsey McKean failed to fire. It was a really hard card to watch for the most part because of what we saw. So I guess the question is, what next? I think a lot of people just want to see Derek Chisora retire. But as I said to someone on Twitter when they sort of said, will he retire up after this? If Eddie Hearn or other promoters are going to keep putting him on cards either as a main event or co-main event and pay him well, why would he retire? He didn't look great out there, but people will keep wheeling him out if he's able to keep having these fights and paydays. He will just keep going. And he's been going and he's been, super washed for a while now. I think that Joseph Parker rematch where Parker just absolutely beat him up and, pushed him around the ring. And then he was obviously dominated by Tyson Fury. There's exit points. There have been. Eddie Hearn has him as the co-main event after, and the gall of that after having said he should retire at the end of last year. So I can't say from an action perspective that the card delivered overall. And this was one of the fights that it was a very hard watch to, overall. Chisora, he should retire. He probably won't. Washington is clearly out here just looking to clip paydays. There's a number of guys that are sort of pushing 40 or over 40 that are clearly just hanging around to be plucked out to be opponents at short notice, or as a tune-up for the guys, for the likes of an Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. People want to put their hands up and get that money. Washington was in the running for that Joshua fight, didn't get it, still gets the co-main event, still would have got paid well for overall what was not a great performance. But you have to give him some credit. He stuck it out. He actually went to the end of this one instead of quitting, because his body language didn't look great after 6 rounds. It looked like he was going to have maybe a bit of a final stand round and then quit, but Malik Scott talked him out of that and G'd him up. What did you make of this one? Yeah, wasn't great. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.